Welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of the Huddle Hub podcast. My name is Metal Mike, and today we are going to get into the NFL draft grades. Yes, we are going to give you, I'm going to give you my NFL draft grades by each team. We are also going to talk about UFL Week 5 and what happened in the Sunday games and get you guys ready for Week 6 of the UFL. And we are also going to talk about all the news coming out of the world of football since Sunday. Before we get into it, please make sure you're heading over to the Huddle Hub podcast over on social media on X, TikTok, Instagram, and Epic Studios at the Huddle Hub Pod. You're going to hit that follow button over on YouTube. You're going to hit that subscribe button. And you're going to hit that follow button on the Twitch channel at the Huddle Hub podcast as well. All of our social media links are in our Twitch bio. Just go and click on the one you desire to go to, because I know not everybody uses every social media. You ask somebody, hey, you got TikTok? No, I don't. Okay, well, do you have Instagram? Sure. Okay, well, we have an Instagram. But if you go on TikTok, we have TikTok as well. Not everybody uses every social media. So you click on the one you desire to go to. Hit that follow, or on YouTube's case, subscribe, and help us build the Huddle Hub podcast through the rest of the 2026 NFL offseason and beyond. So as we know, the NFL draft ended this weekend. We talked about this on Sunday. And I said on the Sunday show that I would have my grades by each team for you guys by today. I do. I have them, and we're going to do them. But we got to get into other stuff first that has happened since Sunday. First off, the UFL Week 5 has concluded. On Sunday, we had the Columbus Aviators take on the Houston Gamblers. The Columbus Aviators losing to the Gamblers 17-13. And some stats coming out of that game. First off, for the Columbus Aviators, quarterback Jalen McClendon went 15-22, 160 yards. No touchdowns, no picks. And for the Houston Gamblers, Nolan Henderson, 13-25, 146 yards. Neither quarterback threw a touchdown. Neither quarterback threw an interception. So it's a good thing, no turnovers, but no touchdowns. Toa Taua, the running back of the Columbus Aviators, had one rushing touchdown, 6 of 30. And Jalen McClendon went 4 of 25. He ran the ball as well for a touchdown. And over on the Houston Gamblers side, Nolan Henderson, the quarterback, ran 6 times, 37 yards for a touchdown. And Jalen White ran 9 of 32 for a touchdown as well. So in the late game on Sunday, we had the, my gosh, thing's not working for me. Why? We had the Louisville Kings head out to take on the Dallas Renegades. The Dallas Renegades trying to bounce back from their first loss of the season last week, in which they could not do. The Louisville Kings end up picking up their second win of the season, winning 47-25. So the Dallas Renegades on a 2-game skid. Chandler Rogers of the Louisville Kings, 13 of 18, 150 yards. And Austin Reed of the Dallas Renegades, 14 of 28 for 195 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions. And then Greg Ward came in and went 6 of 7 for 74 yards and a touchdown. A rough go for the Dallas Renegades. I mean, you look at the Dallas Renegades at the beginning of the season thinking, they might be a team to wreck with. But then you look at the Orlando Storm, the DC Defenders, 2 teams that have really just started taking over. And I cannot wait to see the DC Defenders and the Orlando Storm come together and face each other, because that is going to be one heck of a matchup. Just to look at, we're going to have to look at when the Storm play the DC Defenders, because that is going to be a matchup when it happens. Week 9 and Week 10. Back to back. Wow. Okay. So week 9, Friday, May 22nd, they're going to be playing in Orlando. But then in week 10, they're going to head out to DC on May 31st. What a schedule for those two. Back-to-back matchups. It's very rare to see something like that, even in the NFL. And these 2 teams are facing each other back-to-back at the end of the year. That is crazy. Oh, my. Whew. Oh, wow. Well, we'll have to see what happens there. with these teams. But the DC Defenders are 4-1. The Orlando Storm are also 4-1. We got the Louisville Battlehawks, St. Louis Battlehawks, who are 3-2. Birmingham Stallions are 1-4. Houston Gamblers 2-3. Columbus Aviators 1-4. Louisville Kings 2-3. Dallas Renegades 3-2. So the DC Defenders and the Orlando Storm are at the top of the rankings when it comes to. Let's do this in order. DC Defenders, Orlando Storm are 4-1. Dallas Renegades, St. Louis Battlehawks are 3-2. Those would be your playoff teams if the playoffs were to start today. Louisville Kings and Houston Gamblers are 2-3, and the Columbus Aviators and Birmingham Stallions are 1-4. So just think of it this way: if the DC Defenders and the Orlando Storm have the same record going into those last 2 games of the season, man, it is going to be a ride. It is going to be a ride, and the 2 games you're going to want to watch in week 9 and 10. So that's going to be crazy. But that's that for week 5. Coming into the UFL Pick Challenge, I am 9-11. John is 13-7. We both won 1 game in week 5, and the other 3 games we ended up losing. So a rough week for us as far as the Pick Challenge and picks of its own. So we head into week 6 of the UFL coming up. And here is the schedule for week 6 in the UFL. On Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the St. Louis Battlehawks, the 3-2 St. Louis Battlehawks. Sorry about that. The 3-2 St. Louis Battlehawks head out to Louisville to take on the 2-3 Kings. And that game is going to take place on FS1. On Friday, May 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we got the Houston Gamblers, who are 2-3, heading out to take on the 1-4 Columbus Aviators. That game is going to take place on Fox. Saturday, May 2nd at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the 3-2 Dallas Renegades head out to take on the 4-1 DC Defenders at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ABC. And then Sunday, May 3rd, and we'll talk about this game more on Sunday as well as we recap the first 3 games. The Birmingham Stallions, who are 1-4, head out to take on the 4-1 Orlando Storm at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fox on Sunday. So that is your Week 6 schedule for the UFL. And again, we will recap the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday game on the Sunday edition of the Huddle Hub Podcast, and we'll get you ready for that Sunday game, which take place at 4 o'clock. We will be live at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on Twitch and YouTube. So that is the update for the UFL. And, so we'll talk more about it as we get further into the season here. So now, like I said, today's show is all about the draft grades and everything like that. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit here. But as we know, a lot of news has come out in the past couple days in the NFL. As we know, undrafted free agents get signed. The biggest one right now that's being talked about is Diego Pavia to the Ravens. He signed his contract today. So we'll talk about Diego Pavia in just a moment. But a lot of other news concerning other players in the league, free agents, fifth-year options getting picked up, all that stuff. And we're going to talk about that. So let's get into it, starting off with the news that came out today about quarterback Aaron Rodgers. Now, Aaron Rodgers, as we know, is we're still waiting for his decision, whether he's going to re-sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers or not. The Steelers today placed an unrestricted free agent tender on him, which gives the team a little more control about Aaron Rodgers' decision, and this is how. Number one, this affords him the opportunity of a 10% raise amounting to roughly $15 million from his 2025 salary. Now, in 2025, he got paid $10 million. If he signs with Pittsburgh, with him having this tender on him, he will automatically get up to $15 million. There's going to be no contract negotiating, nothing like that. It is going to be you sign, you get paid this amount, and it could be up to $15 million. Now, if Aaron decides to exercise his options and sign with another team, then the Steelers' compensation is a 2027 draft pick. Don't know what round, don't know what pick. They just get compensated an extra draft pick in 2027. So if Aaron Rodgers decides, hey, I'm going to go play for Arizona, well, then the Steelers get a draft pick, an extra draft pick in 2027. This also minimizes the risk of, obviously, like I said, minimizes the risk of contract negotiations by establishing a slight raise while providing the team some security if decided to explore options, which is the 2027 draft pick that they will gain. So the Steelers getting that little, advantage when it comes to this situation. And I said it. I said the moment they drafted Drew Aller in round 3, I think they need to contact Aaron Rodgers and say, look, you got 2 weeks to decide what you're going to do, and then we're moving on. I said it. Because I think Drew Aller can be a starting quarterback in this league, especially for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I understand Drew Aller grew up as a Cleveland Browns fan and a lifelong Cleveland Browns fan. It's a little tough to go to the competition, the rival team, but you play where you get picked. You play where you get picked. And I think Drew Aller is going to be a hell of a quarterback in this league, and I think he's going to be a hell of a quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. If I was Pittsburgh, I would ride with Drew Aller. I would. I would let Aaron Rodgers exercise the options. That's just me. New coach coming in, new attitude, new schemes, new quarterback. Yes, I know Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers have their relationship that they have from the past, being with the Packers. But the past couple years, it's like Aaron Rodgers has taken advantage of the fact of, hey, I'm going to go sign with the Jets, get the big contract. Was out for a year from an injury, 4 plays into the season. Then came back, and the Jets didn't do absolutely anything. The whole debacle in Green Bay when Jordan Love got drafted. So if I was Pittsburgh, fresh start, Mike McCarthy, new quarterback. The only way a winning season, and this is kind of odd to say and really think about, but you think about it, the Pittsburgh Steelers have been on a 19-season winning streak. They've had 19 straight winning seasons under Mike Tomlin. This is a new coach. Now, yes, as an organization, you kind of want to continue that winning streak thing. But you have a new coach coming in who's going to have a different way of doing things. And things aren't necessarily going to be all success. It's very rare for a new coach to come in and have instant success. So with a new coach coming in, why not start fresh with a new quarterback? Why not? And you got 2 young quarterbacks on that bench that can fight for that spot. Drew Aller, I think, would win the spot. But I would roll with Allard. I would. Now, I understand what the Steelers did today. They put themselves in a prime position to whether or not Aaron Rodgers signs with them, they win. If he signs, yeah, they got to pay him 10% more, but they don't have to go through the negotiations of the contract. They don't have to deal with that. And if he doesn't sign with them and he signs with somebody else, they get a draft pick. It's win-win for Pittsburgh. Great position, great decision to do this, and I'm excited to see what they do further. So, Alec Halaby, the assistant GM of the Philadelphia Eagles, decided to step down from his role with the team today. He mentioned that he wants to begin the new chapter of his career. Now, we know that assistant GMs normally put themselves in the position of someday becoming the GM of either the team that they're assisting or for another team. There was no way, shape, or form that he was going to take over for Howie Roseman. So if anything, he was going to go to another team once that was put in the place that he was going to become a GM, right? Because he's not replacing Howie. Howie's going nowhere. Howie's only leaving if Howie wants to leave. That's that. So for him to explore other opportunities in his career, it's understandable. Wish him the best of luck. As far as I'm getting is he's just stepping down from the position, so I don't think he's necessarily leaving the organization, but if he is, wish him the best of luck in his future endeavors, and hopefully he has success to wherever he goes. So there we go. As we know, Diego Pavia, the quarterback from Vanderbilt, was undrafted this past weekend, and he was invited to the Ravens minicamp. He did sign his contract today, so he is a part of the Baltimore Ravens. I said this to a couple people, especially Phil, who I am co-host with on Wednesday nights over on Rivet City Radio on the Boom. He is a Ravens fan, and I said to him, and I said to a couple other people too, like John, that I think the Ravens need to put Lamar Jackson under a microscope. You built your team the way you built your team for success. This team looks like it could be a success. Now it's all about what they do on the field. Lamar Jackson has gotten you to one conference championship game since he has been drafted, right? And that was in 2022-2023 season. And you lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. A season to that, you had a great season. Should have probably made it to the Super Bowl, and you didn't. I would be giving Lamar Jackson the ultimatum. You don't get us to at least the conference title game, we're shopping you. Now, I know that's a drastic measure, but what has Lamar Jackson done since coming into the league? What, one MVP? Won a couple division championships? You can win a division championship every year. What does that matter? It just guarantees you one home playoff game. And if you get home field advantage, you're home all postseason. The Philadelphia Eagles last year, yeah, because Detroit crapped the bed, became the home field advantage team at number 2. But other than that, what has Lamar done? Nothing. And we are in a win now mentality league. This is a win now mentality league. And Lamar Jackson, yeah, he can win the regular season. When it comes to the postseason, you haven't gotten further than the divisional round except for one time, and you haven't gotten us to the big show. So I would be putting that pressure on him, saying, look, you don't get us to at least the conference title game, get us there. We're shopping you. Because I have a feeling Diego Pavia is going to progress in Baltimore. And I think he might have an opportunity to take over that team. And I know that's wild to say, and I know it's wild to think of. But the thing is, yeah, this kid, he talks a lot. He does. But what player doesn't? What player doesn't? He just makes it more vocal, and he makes it more public. And yeah, he says some dumb stuff. But what young kid doesn't? What young kid doesn't? I believe that Diego Pavia can prove that he belongs in this league. And it's going to start now. So Ravens fans, be ready. There's a chance Diego Pavia might be the guy that takes over your team in the next year or two. Especially if they put that ultimatum on Lamar Jackson. So we'll have to see. Wide receiver Aaron Lewis has signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is his third time with the team. So Aaron Wilson back with the Steelers for a third time. The Dallas Cowboys signed wide receiver Marquez Valdes-Scantling. So as we know, the Dallas Cowboys put the franchise tag on George Pickens. George Pickens has yet to sign the franchise tag. I believe he has until July 1st to sign the franchise tag, but they went out and got Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Now, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, he's a good wide receiver. He can produce, but I don't think he'd be able to produce as much as George Pickens can. So is it a good replacement? Yeah, it's a decent one, just in case, but he's not going to give you the production value that George Pickens can. So if I was Jerry Jones, I'd be pulling out that checkbook and saying, look, let's get you signed. Because if George Pickens becomes available, another team that wants to compete is going to come grab him up, and they will sign him. They won't hesitate. That's the big problem in Dallas, is they hesitate too much. They're not hesitant on getting rid of guys. They're hesitant on signing guys. Just because your bank account looks good, your cap room looks good, doesn't mean it needs to stay that way. You got that money for a reason. and your fans are not happy. You talk to Cowboys fans, you can tell they're not happy. Very optimistic, but not happy. And that's your number one source of income, is your fans. Why? Because they go out and buy the merchandise. Okay? Make them happy. Just saying. So, Jordan Addison, wide receiver of the Minnesota Vikings. His fifth-year option got picked up. Kalijah Cansey, defensive lineman of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, his fifth-year option got picked up. And Jalen Carter, defensive lineman, and Nolan Smith, linebacker, both of the Philadelphia Eagles. Their fifth-year options got picked up by the teams this past weekend. So all fifth-year options of those guys have been picked up. Yeah. And last thing to talk about is the Pittsburgh Steelers, and more news coming out of Pittsburgh. Dang it. Last thing, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they are possibly facing tampering consequences. Damn it. I can't say it right. I want to clip this. In other news, the Pittsburgh Steelers are under the radar right now for the possibility of tampering consequences. Back during night number 1 of the NFL draft, it was well known that they spent almost all night on the phone with wide receiver Makai Lemon. But as we know, the Philadelphia Eagles traded up to the 20th spot with the Dallas Cowboys and ended up selecting Makai Lemon. If you go out and you see the video, Makai Lemon, it's very known that he's been on the phone with Pittsburgh before they were even on the clock, because he says, hey, Pittsburgh's taking me. Pittsburgh's taking me. And everybody was excited. And then Philly calls. And he was wondering why Philly was calling. Well, because they were moving in to take him. Now, league rules is you are not allowed to talk to a player that is a potential draft pick until you are on the clock. So, the Pittsburgh Steelers are possibly, let me do that one more time, because that was so lengthy. So the Pittsburgh Steelers could possibly be facing tampering consequences. On night 1, round 1 of the NFL draft, it has been very well known that they were on the phone almost all night with wide receiver Makai Lemon. Well, league rule is you are not allowed to call and talk to a player that is supposed to be drafted until you are on the clock. Well, the Steelers, it's well known that they were on the phone with him a lot of the time during I fucked that up. See, this is the bad part about wanting to clip a clip. Okay, so we're going to do this one more time. The Pittsburgh Steelers could be facing tampering consequences. Why? Because on Thursday night, round 1 of the NFL draft, they were on the phone with wide receiver Makai Lemon. Fucked that up again. Last time, and then we're going to move on. Okay, that's it. The Pittsburgh Steelers could be facing tampering consequences. On night 1, round 1, Thursday night of the NFL draft, it is well known that they were on the phone most of the night with wide receiver Makai Lemon. Well, league rule is you are not allowed to call a potential drafted player until you are on the clock. Well, it's well known that they were on the phone most of the night with Makai Lemon, and then the Philadelphia Eagles ended up trading up. Fuck that up again. Last time, I promise. Last time, for whoever's watching, I promise. The Pittsburgh Steelers could be facing tampering consequences. Why? Because on Thursday night, round 1 of the NFL draft, they were on the phone with Makai Lemon most of the night. This is well known. There's videos out there. There's proof that they spent most of the night on the phone with Makai Lemon. And then the Philadelphia Eagles traded up to the 20th spot and took him. Now, again, there's video proof out there that he was on the phone with Pittsburgh most of the night. And then in the video, you hear him saying, why is Philly calling? Because him and his friends and family were celebrating that he was going to Pittsburgh. And then Philly called and he goes, why is Philly calling? Why? Because they traded up. They're going to take you. Now, league rule is you cannot talk to a player until you are on the clock. And that's why the Steelers could be facing tampering consequences. We're going to stick with that. So, but there it is. That is the news coming out of this week. We're going to have to see if the Steelers do get hit with this tampering consequences, see what happens with Aaron Rodgers, and so much more. We're going to take a 30-second break here, and I'm going to get ready to do my draft grades. That's what we're going to do when we get back here on this edition of the Huddle Hub Podcast. All right, guys, so make sure you're heading over to the Huddle Hub Podcast over on social media after the show on Instagram, TikTok, X, and on Epic Studios at the Huddle Hub Pod. You're going to hit that follow button over on the YouTube. You're going to hit the subscribe button. You're going to hit the follow button on the Twitch channel at the Huddle Hub Podcast. All of our social media links are in the bio of the Twitch channel, so you can go click on the social media that you desire to follow us on. Hopefully, it's all of them, but if not, it's understandable. You go to the one you desire to go to and help us build the Huddle Hub Podcast through the rest of the 2026 NFL offseason and beyond. So let's get into the NFL draft grades by team. Okay, so how we're going to do this is we're going to play a little bit of agree, disagree. Okay, because as we know, NFL.com has their draft grades, ESPN.com has their draft grades. We're going to agree or disagree with NFL.com's. Okay, because they're the NFL. Why would we not go by the league and draft grades? And we're going to follow it by the teams that they have in order here. We're not going to do it by division because, you know, I would have to jump around on my other screen and everything like that. We're just going to do it by the order of the team. And I'm going to say whether I agree or disagree, and then I'll give my grade of the team. Okay, that's how we're going to do this. First off, the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona Cardinals are the first team. They drafted Jeremiah Love, running back of Notre Dame, offensive guard Chase Bisontis, quarterback Carson Beck, defensive tackle Caleb Proctor, wide receiver Reggie Virgil out of Texas Tech, linebacker Carson Sherrar out of Iowa, and offensive tackle Jaden Williams out of Mississippi. And I'm going to say this right now, NFL.com giving them a grade A draft. I'll give them an A as well. This was a great draft by the Arizona Cardinals. They picked up almost every need that they needed. There's a couple of spots that they did need, like an edge rusher, but they're going to be able to pick up an edge rusher out of free agency and everything. NFL.com giving them an A through day 1 and day 2, an A- through day 3. I'm going to give them an A as well. The Arizona Cardinals getting an A. The Atlanta Falcons, they did not have a first-round pick. Their first pick of the draft was in round 2, pick 48, with cornerback Avion Terrell out of Clemson. Round 3, wide receiver Zachariah Branch out of Georgia. Linebacker Kendall Daniels out of Oklahoma. Defensive tackle Ontario Thompson out of Washington. Linebacker Harold Perkins Jr. out of LSU. And offensive tackle Ethan Oinawa out of Ohio State. NFL.com giving them a B minus, day 1 C, day 2 A, day 3 B minus. Okay, so I'll say this right now. I would have to give the Atlanta Falcons a B minus as well. I can agree with that as a full grade. The Atlanta Falcons, you look at the quarterback situation, and I think Tua Tagovailoa is going to be the starter out in Atlanta. I don't think it's going to be Michael Penix's team. So I think that's their biggest concern right now is that quarterback position. All the other positions seem to be in a good place, but I'll have to agree that the B minus situation grade would be best. The Baltimore Ravens in round 1 go out and get offensive guard Vega Ione out of Penn State, edge rusher Zion Young out of Missouri, wide receiver Jacoby Lane out of USC, wide receiver Elijah Surratt out of Indiana, tight end Matthew Hibner out of SMU, cornerback Chandler Rivers out of Duke, tight end Josh Cuevas out of Alabama, running back Adam Randall out of Clemson, punter Ryan Eckley out of Michigan State, defensive lineman Rayshawn Benny out of Michigan, and offensive guard Evan Bernsen out of Northwestern. NFL.com giving them a B-plus grade. I'll say this. I would have to give them an A-minus. This was a great draft by Baltimore. It was a great, great draft by Baltimore. Like I said, they built their team to look good on paper. Now they got to put it on the field. Great draft by Baltimore. I'll give them an A-minus. I'm not going to run down every player, but I'll do rounds 1, 2, and 3 if the team had a 1, 2, and 3 pick. That's how we're going to do this because this will take forever if I read off every name drafted by every team. So the Buffalo Bills are up next, and NFL.com gave them an A. Their first pick was in round 2, pick 35, with edge rusher TJ Parker out of Clemson. Then they got cornerback Davis Igabonson out of Ohio State. I'll say this. Looking at the rest of this draft, I would have to give the Buffalo Bills a B. A B. Now, they went out and got Zane Durant, the defensive tackle out of Penn State, in the 5th round. I love that pickup for them. I think he's going to make an impact in Buffalo. But looking at it, I'll have to say I got to give Buffalo a B. The Carolina Panthers, NFL.com gave them an A-. They picked up offensive tackle Monroe Freeling out of Georgia. Defensive tackle Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech, wide receiver Chris Brazzell II out of Tennessee. Looking at the Panthers, I got to agree with NFL.com, A-. Definitely, this team is progressing. The Chicago Bears, they got an A- from NFL.com. Round 1, they took safety Dylan Thieneman out of Oregon, center Logan Jones out of Iowa, tight end Sam Roosh out of Stanford, wide receiver Xavier Thomas out of LSU. I can agree, A- by the Chicago Bears. They needed defensive back help. They needed linebacker help, and they went out and got a linebacker and a defensive tackle in the 5th and 6th round. They got a cornerback in the 4th round. I'm liking this draft by the Chicago Bears. I agree, A-. Cincinnati Bengals got a B through NFL.com. They didn't get their first pick until the 2nd round because obviously they traded away their 1st-round pick for Dexter Lawrence from the New York Giants. They picked up edge rusher Cassius Howell out of Texas A&M, cornerback Tacario Davis out of Washington. I can agree, a B to B- for Cincinnati. This was a good draft for them. Their biggest thing is protecting Joe Burrow. And when you look at it, did they go after any offensive linemen? Yeah, they got one. Brian Parker II out of Duke, and he's a pretty good offensive lineman. So I think they did good. A B-, I think, is a fair grade for the Bengals. The Cleveland Browns, they got an A- from NFL.com. They ended up getting offensive tackle Spencer Fanu out of Utah, wide receiver Casey Concepcion out of Texas A&M. In the 2nd round, wide receiver Denzel Boston out of Washington, safety Emmanuel McNeil Warren out of Toledo, offensive tackle Austin Barber out of Florida. I'm going to say this right now. I give the Browns an A+. They had a great draft. Between them and the Jets, I think they won the draft. The Browns are getting themselves ready to roll. I think we're going to have to keep an eye on the Cleveland Browns this year. Dallas Cowboys, their round 1 picks were safety Caleb Downs from Ohio State, edge rusher Malachi Lawrence out of UCF. And in the 3rd round, they got edge rusher Jashawn Barham out of Michigan. B plus was what NFL.com gave them. I'll say that they get a B minus. They had a good draft, but not a great draft. Some good moves by Dallas. Now they got to go out and sign George Pickens. Bottom line. The Denver Broncos got an A minus from NFL.com. They did not have a pick until the third round, where they picked defensive tackle Tyler Onyenim out of Texas A&M. Looking at the rest of their draft board, some pretty good draft picks. They got an A minus. I got to say I give them a B minus. The Detroit Lions got an A minus from NFL.com. In round one, they took offensive tackle Blake Miller out of Clemson, edge rusher Derek Moore out of Michigan, linebacker Jimmy Rolder out of Michigan. Oh, that's a fourth rounder. I'll say B plus for the Detroit Lions. The Green Bay Packers got a B plus through NFL.com. They didn't have a first round pick. In the second round, they got cornerback Brandon Seiss out of South Carolina, defensive tackle Chris McClellan out of Missouri. One of my favorite picks by them was in the fourth round. They got edge rusher Dani Dennis Sutton out of Penn State. And I think he's going to go and make an impact for the Green Bay Packers. NFL.com gave them a B plus. I can agree with that B plus grade. The Houston Texans went out. They got a B grade from NFL.com. In round one, got offensive guard Keelan Rutledge out of Georgia Tech. They got Caden McDonald, defensive tackle out of Ohio State. Tight end Marlon Klein out of Michigan. And that's that. For round 1 and 2, they did not have a third round pick. I can agree with the B grade from NFL.com. Indianapolis Colts, they got a B grade as well. They went out in the second round. They did not have a first round pick. They went right into the second round. Linebacker CJ Allen out of Georgia, safety AJ Halsey out of LSU, and then looking at the rest of their draft board, not a bad draft. I agree to that B grade. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they did not have a first round pick at all. They went right into the second round with tight end Nate Boerkircher out of Texas A&M. Then they got defensive tackle Albert Regis out of Texas A&M, offensive guard Emmanuel Pregnon out of Oregon, and safety Jalen Husky out of Maryland. I'm going to say this right now, B minus draft grade from me for the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Kansas City Chiefs got an A minus grade from NFL.com. Round one, they got cornerback Mansour Delane out of LSU, followed up on the 29th pick with defensive tackle Peter Wood from Clemson. They went out and got edge rusher R. Mason Thomas from Oklahoma. Looking at the rest of their draft board, really good draft by the Kansas City Chiefs. I like the fact that they went out and took a chance on picking Garrett Nussmeier. Obviously, we know Patrick Mahomes is their guy. Nussmeier may not even see the field in Kansas City unless Patrick Mahomes goes down. I'll have to say a B as far as a grade for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Las Vegas Raiders, who had the number 1 overall pick, they took quarterback Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana, defensive back Traden Stutes out of Arizona, edge rusher Kayron Crawford out of Auburn. They also took Trey Zune, the third out of Texas A&M. My favorite pick from them, though, is in the fourth round. They took cornerback Jermon McCoy out of Tennessee. Love this pickup. I got to say A minus is the right grade for the Las Vegas Raiders. Chargers got a B grade from NFL.com as they went out and got edge rusher Akeem Messidor out of Miami, offensive guard Jake Slaughter out of Florida. Looking at their draft board, they went out and got everything they needed to get as far as needs. So I can agree to the B grade as far as what NFL.com gave them. The Los Angeles Rams, they got a B plus grade from NFL.com. In round one, they took the surprise pick of quarterback Ty Simpson out of Alabama, went out and got tight end Max Clare out of Ohio State, and offensive tackle Keegan Trost out of Missouri. I'll have to say a B minus draft grade for the Los Angeles Rams. The Miami Dolphins went out and got Caden Proctor with their first pick in the first round, offensive tackle out of Alabama. Then they followed back into the first round by getting cornerback Chris Johnson out of San Diego State. My favorite pick of theirs throughout this whole draft was linebacker Jacob Rodriguez out of Texas Tech in the second round. They got wide receiver Caleb Douglas out of Texas Tech, tight end Will Kaczmarek out of Ohio State, wide receiver Chris Bell out of Louisville. Looking at their draft board, they went out and got every position that they needed. As far as we know, the Dolphins, they needed a lot. I would have to say a B minus as a grade for me for them. The Minnesota Vikings got a solid B from NFL.com. They went out and got defensive lineman Caleb Banks from Florida, linebacker Jake Golday out of Cincinnati, defensive tackle Dominique Orange out of Iowa State, offensive tackle Caleb Turnin out of Northwestern, safety Jacob Thomas out of Miami. Looking at the rest of their draft board, I mean, a B- would be my grade for Minnesota. AFC champion New England Patriots with the 28th overall pick got offensive tackle Caleb Lomu out of Utah. I loved this pick for them. They also got edge rusher Gabe Jackas out of Illinois, tight end Eli Raridan out of Notre Dame. And then they did not have anything after that. They had a 5th round, 6th round, 2 6th rounds, and 3 7th rounds. Just looking at their draft pick, I think a B- would be a better grade, but NFL.com gave them a B+. I give them a B-. Now, the other day we had somebody come in and ask about the New Orleans Saints. Well, here's the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints, with their first pick in the NFL draft this year, got wide receiver Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State, followed up in the 2nd round with defensive tackle Kristen Miller out of Georgia, and then they got tight end Oscar Delp out of Georgia. Looking at the rest of their draft board, I like this pickup of wide receiver Bryce Lance. It is Trey Lance's brother. As we know, Trey Lance was a first-round pick a few years ago for the San Francisco 49ers. I think Bryce Lance is going to bring some progression to this team. I do. If you go look at Bryce Lance's statistics, not bad statistics. So he might be the surprise for this team. Getting Lorenzo Styles Jr., huge pickup. TJ Hall out of Iowa, huge pickup. I would have to say I'd give the Saints an A-. NFL.com gave them a B+. I'll say A- for the New Orleans Saints. Great draft for them. New York Giants. Now, as we know, they won the draft last year, 2 years ago? They won the draft, right? Well, they may have been a top 5 again this year. Linebacker, edge rusher Arvell Reese out of Ohio State, offensive tackle Francis Maioga out of Miami, cornerback Colton Hood out of Tennessee, wide receiver Malachi Fields out of Notre Dame, and then they didn't have anything after the 3rd round until the 6th round. So B+ grade from NFL.com, I say B-. B-. The New York Jets, like I said, top 2 for them. Had a great draft. Started off with edge rusher David Bailey out of Texas Tech, picking up Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon, wide receiver Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana, cornerback D'Angelo Pond out of Indiana. Then just looking at the rest of their pickups was really good. NFL.com's giving them a B+. I give them an A-. My Philadelphia Eagles, with the heist of the 2026 NFL draft, I call it, even though the Pittsburgh Steelers may be getting hit with the tampering, it's still the heist. They moved in and took Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver out of USC, before the Steelers can get him at 21. They got tight end Eli Stowers out of Vanderbilt, offensive tackle Markel Bell out of Miami. Then they went out and got Cole Payton, North Dakota State's quarterback, offensive guard Micah Morris out of Georgia, safety Cole Wisniewski out of Texas Tech, defensive tackle Uar Bernard out of the IPP program, and edge rusher Kashawn James Newby out of New Mexico. NFL.com gave them a B+. I'm going to say a B+ as well. I can agree to the B+. Pittsburgh Steelers got an A-. They went out and got offensive tackle Max Ihenicher out of Arizona State, wide receiver Jeremy Bernard out of Alabama, quarterback Drew Aller out of Penn State, cornerback Dalen Everett out of Georgia, and offensive guard Jennings Dunker out of Iowa. Looking at the rest of their board, I would have to agree A- for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The San Francisco 49ers went out and they got an A- grade from NFL.com. Wide receiver Dijon Stribling out of Mississippi, edge rusher Romello Heights out of Texas Tech, running back Kaleon Black out of Indiana. And looking at the rest of their board, I would have to say the 49ers a B. NFL.com gave them an A-. I give them a B. The defending Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks getting a B+ grade from NFL.com. Running back Jadarian Price from Notre Dame, safety Bud Clark out of TCU, and then cornerback Julian Neal out of Arkansas. I would have to say a B- for the Seattle Seahawks would be my grade. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers got an A- from NFL.com. They went out and got edge rusher Ruben Bain Jr. out of Miami, linebacker Josiah Trotter out of Missouri, wide receiver Ted Hurst out of Georgia State. Looking at the rest, I would have to agree an A- for the Buccaneers. I'm just going to say first round picks now to kind of fly through this a little quicker since we are coming close to the end of the show. Tennessee Titans got an A- from NFL.com in the first round, got wide receiver Carnell Tate out of Ohio State and edge rusher Keldrick Falk out of Auburn. I would have to say looking at the rest of the draft board, I would have to say a B for the Tennessee Titans. For the Washington Commanders, they got a B from NFL.com, getting linebacker Sonny Styles from Ohio State. I would have to say B- for the Washington Commanders. And that's it. That's it. So there are all my grades for each team from the NFL 2026 NFL Draft. So that's that. Okay, guys. So now you're probably thinking, what do we do next? Right? Draft is over. Teams signed guys from being undrafted. Teams went out and signed some guys. Okay? So you're probably thinking, what's next here on the Huddle Hub podcast? Well, we got a lot. We still have the rest of the UFL season to talk about. As far as the International Arena Football League, and I'm going to say this right now, as of yesterday, I haven't seen any update on anything. Okay? Now, let's see if they updated anything today, because I don't think anything has come out. Okay, so we do have standings. We have standings, okay? As far as the International Arena Football League standings, the Pennsylvania Benjamins in the North American Conference or division conference, whatever you want to call it. The Pennsylvania Benjamin are 2-0. The Utah Great Eights are 1-1. The Slingers, I'm trying to see where they're from. I used to have all the teams written down, and now I don't. So here we go. I found a way to do it. Okay, so the Pennsylvania Benjamins are 2-0. The Utah Great Eights are 1-1. The Cincinnati Slingers are 1-1. The Arizona Juggernauts are 0-1. And the Rockers, the Las Vegas Rockers, are 0-1. So the Pennsylvania Benjamins are in first place. Now, for the teams in the European Conference, these are the teams in the European Conference: the Dusseldorf Warriors, the England Eruptors, Glasgow Tartans, Stuttgart Stallions, and the Zurich Ibex. Well, the Tartans are 1-0, the Stallions are 1-0, the Eruptors are 0-1, the Warriors are 0-1, and the Ibex are yet to play a game. They are 0-0. So that is the updated standings for the International Arena Football League. I'm keeping my eye on everything when it comes to this league. I am, because I'm very invested in this league. But you're probably thinking, like, what's next? Yes, we got the rest of the UFL season. We got the International Arena Football League, which we're trying to keep up on as best as we can with what they give us, because it is a brand new league. But after that, what else is there to talk about other than the news? Well, there's still free agents out there that can get signed. We got to talk about. There's news coming out every day. And the next thing we are going to do, and we're going to do this on the Sunday show, is our post-draft predictions on how every team is going to do in 2026. So basically a 1.0 version of predictions. Yes, because we know who every team's opponents are for 2026. We just don't know the actual schedule. Well, we're going to do our first predictions for each team on Sunday. So that is going to be our Sunday show. So come join me at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday morning as we do our 1.0 post-draft predictions for 2026. Okay? Make sure you're following the Huddle Hub podcast all across social media, Instagram, X, TikTok, and Epic Studios at the Huddle Hub Pod. Hit that follow button on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. Follow on the Twitch channel. All the links for social media are in the Twitch channel bio. Just go ahead and click on the one you desire to go to. Help us build the Huddle Hub podcast through the rest of the 2026 NFL offseason and beyond. You can follow me on social media, Instagram, X, YouTube, TikTok, Metal Mike 714. That's where you can find me. Like I said, I'm going to be back on Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here for the Huddle Up Podcast as we do our post-draft 2026 predictions 1.0 to see how every team is going to do. With that being said, be good to each other, be kind to each other, take care of each other, be patient with each other. Remember, the world is not moving as fast as you think. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you on Sunday morning. Until then, have a good one. Deuces.